so far beyond me that, and yet I'm so glad that we have the capacity, to pipe into people's homes or their cars or wherever they are, that the Dharma can be disseminated, around the world, even in this way. I think we're ready. So let's just go inside and open our hearts for a minute. Everything I need. Withholding nothing. I surrender all to everything I have to be. Withholding nothing. Withholding nothing. I surrender all to you. Everything I have to holding I lay it all down. Lay it all down. Surrender. I lay it all. I lay it all. Lay it all down. Surrender. Lay it all down. I lay it all down. Lay it all down. Surrender. Lay it all down. I lay it all down. I lay down my foolish pride, all the pain I feel deep inside, my future and my past. They're the worthless things that will not last. All my dreams and my ambition was for fame or high position. The greatest gift I can give is the life that I live. I lay it all down. Lay it all down. Lay it all down. Surrender. Lay it all down. Oh, I lay it all down. Lay it all down. I lay down my foolish pride, all the pain I feel deep inside, my future and my past. They're the worthless things that will not last. Oh, my dreams and my ambitions, just for fame or high position. really see if I can get the life that I live. Oh, I lay it all down freely, giving it all to you now. Holding back nothing, I lay it all down. I lay it all down. Good morning, Sangha. So you might ask, wow, like what's wrong? Everything and nothing is wrong. I'm just so grateful for my teacher today, that's all. I was reading one of his Dharma talks that I'm going to share with you shortly. I know I've said that for 2 weeks, but it's having such a profound effect on me. It has to have its work on me first, you know. And then when I finished cleansing, then I can share it in a meaningful way. And it said that when someone is in you're trying to save someone because the oxygen has lost the cabin, to put your mask on first, you know, and then help somebody else. So that's what I've been doing the past few weeks. All tears are not tears of sadness. Some are tears of joy, just so completely overwhelmed by the goodness and the good fortune that comes into your life. And we all know that good effort has a good reward. But when the reward comes, it's so much more than one could even imagine for the little bit of effort that they put forward, that you can easily be overwhelmed. I wanted to share from 2 discourses. One where the Buddha was talking to lay followers, the people of Bamboo Gate, and contrasted with when he was talking to the group of 5. You know, the group of 5 were other wanderers who were searching for escape, for the meaning of life, and escape from the sorrow of life, the insufficiency of life. And they had traveled together for a long time, and then the Buddha said, you know, maybe this is not the way because we're not getting there. And he went off alone. And he tried many different things, many austerities, flagellating the body, you know, to kill off its pleasures, mortifying the body, starving himself, all of these different things. He said at one time he was so thin that he could poke his finger into his stomach and feel his spine, that he was subsisting on 1 grain of rice a day. And then when he was almost dead from all of this, a young maiden came by and saw him and gave him some nourishment. And then when he was stronger, he said, well, I could see that's not the right way. I mean, how are you gonna practice and have a chance to realize anything if you're dead? You know, so he went off by himself and he sat and he began to meditate. And as he was meditating, something shifted in him. But it's when he'd come to the end of himself, you see. So some of us are at the place where we've come to the end of ourselves. Some of us are at the place where we're coming to the beginning of the end of ourselves. Some of us are at the place that we're thoroughly confused about our life, our place in it, our purpose, and anything that we want to do in this world. Just a state of confusion. Some of us are. At a state where the self that we know, my book is, it's actually Pani Deepa's book, the book is so raggedy and torn up, it's hard to even hold a sheet of paper in it. I want to get you a new book, Pani. Or maybe I'll just give myself a book and give you yours back. I know how precious these books are when they've been with us through thick and thin. They can be raggedy, but you know, there's some connection that we have, even with the words on the page. We sort of like know where everything is. This morning I asked Pani Deepa to find these 2 stories for me. He says, oh yeah, I know where they are. And he got his favorite book. I like the Majjhima Nikaya, and he likes the Samyutta Nikaya. And he knew just where to find it in his books. I understand the preciousness of the old worn out book. I'm trying to handle it as delicately as I can. So we find that we're in all kinds of different places or states, mental states and states of experience in this world, and yet we all come together as one Sangha. And how can that be? How can that happen? How can there be a unity in that? And with all of our trying, you know, with all of our effort to come together, sometimes we miss the mark. We miss the mark. We miss the mark. And not because we don't want to hit that bullseye. It's not because of that. But it's because we haven't come to a certain resolve around a principle that governs unity. And already this is coming out different than that I got it this morning. So just ride with me, and hopefully I can string it all back together at some point. The people of the Bamboo Gate heard that the Buddha and his ascetics were coming. And these were the householders. And it said, "It is said, sir, that the ascetic Gautama, the son of the Sakyans, who went forth from a Sakyan family, has been walking on tour among the Kosalans together with a great Sangha of bhikkhus and has arrived at Bamboo Gate. Now, a good report concerning Master Gautama has spread about thus. The Blessed One is an Arhat, perfectly enlightened, accomplished in true knowledge and conduct, fortunate, knower of the world, unsurpassed leader of persons to be tamed, teacher of devas and humans, the enlightened one, the Blessed One, having realized by his own direct knowledge this world with its devas, Mara, and Brahma, this generation with its ascetics and Brahmins, its devas and humans, he makes it known to others. He teaches a Dharma that is good in the beginning, good in the middle, and good in the end. With the right meaning and phrasing, he reveals a holy life that is perfectly complete and pure, and it is good to see such arahants. It is good to see such arahants. This is what the wise men of that village said. It is good to see such arahants. It is said, sir, that he is an arahant, perfectly enlightened, accomplished in true knowledge and conduct, fortunate, knower of the world, unsurpassed leader of persons to be tamed, teacher of devas and humans, having realized by his own direct knowledge this world and its world of devas, Mara, and humans. And he makes that known to others. He teaches the Dharma that is good in the beginning, good in the middle, and good in the end, with the right meaning and phrasing. He reveals a holy life that is perfectly complete and pure. It is good to see such arahants. So then those Brahmin householders of the Bamboo Gate approached the Blessed One, and having approached and paid homage to him, they sat down, and some greeted him, exchanging greetings and cordial talk. Some extended their hands in reverential salutation and sat down. Some announced their name and clan and sat down. And some remained silent and sat down. And sitting to one side, those Brahmin householders said to him, Master, we have such wishes, desires, and hopes as these. May we dwell in a home crowded with children. May we enjoy cassia and sandalwood. May we wear garlands, scents, and unguents. May we receive gold and silver with the breakup of the body after death. May we be reborn in a good destination, in a heavenly world. As we have such wishes, desires, and hopes, let Master Gautama teach us the Dharma in such a way that we might dwell in a home crowded with children, in such a way that we can enjoy cassia and sandalwood, in such a way that we can wear garlands, scents, and unguents, and that we can receive gold and silver, and with the breakup of the body after death, be reborn in a good destination, in a heavenly world. I will teach you, householders, a Dharma exposition applicable to oneself. Listen to that and attend closely. I will speak. Yes, sir, those Brahmin householders of Bamboo Gate replied. And the Blessed One said this, what householders is the Dharma exposition applicable to you? Here, householders, a noble disciple reflects thus: I am one who wishes to live, who does not wish to die. I desire happiness, and I am averse to suffering, since I am one who wishes to live and does not wish to die, and am adverse to suffering. If someone would take my life now, that would not be pleasing and agreeable to me. Now, if I were to take the life of another, one who wishes to live, who doesn't wish to die, who desires happiness and is averse to suffering, then that would not be pleasing and agreeable to the other either. What is displeasing and disagreeable to me is displeasing and disagreeable to the other too. So how can I inflict upon another what is displeasing and disagreeable to me? Having reflected thus, he himself abstains from the destruction of life. He exhorts others to abstain from the destruction of life. And he speaks in praise of abstinence from the destruction of life. And thus, this bodily conduct of his is purified in 3 actions. He doesn't think it, he doesn't say it, he doesn't do it, and he also speaks against it. Again, householders, a noble disciple reflects: if someone were to take from me what I have not given, that is to commit theft, that would not be pleasing and agreeable to me. Now, if I were to take from another what has not been given, that is, if I were to commit theft, that would not be pleasing and agreeable to the other either. What is displeasing and disagreeable to me is displeasing and disagreeable to the other too. How can I inflict upon another what is displeasing and disagreeable to me? And having reflected thus, he himself abstains from taking what is not given. He exhorts others to abstain from taking what is not given. He speaks in praise of abstinence from taking what is not given, and thus his bodily conduct is purified in these 3 aspects. He doesn't think it, he doesn't do it, and admonishes others not to do it. He doesn't speak of it. Again, householder, a noble disciple reflects thus: if someone were to commit adultery with my wives, that would not be pleasing and agreeable to me. Now, if I were to commit adultery with the wives of another, that would not be pleasing and agreeable to the other. What is displeasing and disagreeable to me is displeasing and disagreeable to the other too. How can I inflict upon another what is displeasing and disagreeable to me? And having reflected thus, he himself abstains from sexual misconduct, exhorts others to abstain from sexual misconduct, speaks in praise of abstinence from sexual misconduct. And thus this bodily conduct is purified in 3 aspects. Again, household. A noble disciple reflects thus: if someone were to damage my welfare with false speech, that would not be pleasing and agreeable to me. Now, if I were to damage the welfare of another with false speech, that would not be pleasing or agreeable to the other. What is displeasing and disagreeable to me is displeasing and disagreeable to the other too. How can I inflict upon them what is displeasing and disagreeable to me? And having reflected thus, he himself abstains from false speech, exhorts others to abstain from false speech. speaks in praise of abstinence from false speech. And thus this verbal conduct of his is purified in three aspects. Again, householder, a noble disciple reflects, if someone were to divide me from my friends by divisive speech, that would not be pleasing and agreeable to me. Now, if I were to divide another from his friends by divisive speech, that would not be agreeable to them. And thus, I shall abstain in these three ways. And in this way, verbal conduct is purified. Again, householder, if someone were to address me with harsh speech, that would not be pleasing and agreeable to me. So in those three ways, I will abstain from harsh speech and be purified in three aspects. Again, if someone were to address me with frivolous speech and idle chaff, that's this conduct of his would be purified by abstaining from idle chaff. So now we get to the end of the talk, and he says, he possesses confirmed confidence in the Buddha thus. The Blessed One is truly a teacher of gods and devas. And humans, this enlightened one, this blessed one, he possesses confirmed confidence in the Dharma and in the Sangha. He possesses the virtues dear to the noble one, unbroken, leading to concentration. When householders, the noble disciple possesses these 7 good qualities and these 4 desirable states. If he wishes, he could by himself declare of himself, I am one finished with hell, finished with the animal realm, finished with the domain of ghosts, finished with the plane of misery, the bad destinations, the netherworld. I am a stream enterer, no longer bound to the netherworld, fixed in destiny with enlightenment as my ultimate destination. When this was said, the householders said, magnificent master. We go for refuge to Master Gotama and to the Dharma and to the Bhikkhu Sangha. From today, let the Blessed One remember us as lay followers who have gone for refuge, for life. And so he gave them a teaching according to what they had a propensity to put into practice, what they had a capacity then because of their desire to do. He gave them that and only that. He said, just do these things and you will become a stream enterer, destined, maybe not in this life, but certainly a heavenly rebirth in a world that is not so filled with misery that takes up all of your time, you know, because one's mind is so devolved. These things will lift one's mind up into a place where the ultimate outpicturing will be a higher plane of existence. And that's a good thing, because you'll be put on a path that will take you across the finish line. Just do these things So I'm talking today about knowing ourselves and where we are. And it's better to just do these things than to be reaching and clamoring and pretending that's the worst, to be something else, somebody else. Just do these things. And when one becomes, good at these things, then one basically forgets themselves around these things and thereby attains a certain level of emptiness, a certain realization of contentment, losing the fear of those who would seek for a higher understanding of greater happiness, and so afraid that it might mean that you have to change. No, you don't have to change. Find your level of happiness. That's all you have to do. And leave other people to find their own level of happiness. But notice the wisdom that's required for that. In the beginning, someone said, whom they consider wise, the Blessed One and his monks are passing through. They say that he is this and has attained this. It would be good to see such a one. Instead, many times when there's something happening that's not, that we have a resistance to, we begin to denigrate the one who is seeking, and also to denigrate perhaps the one who knows. We should be careful. That's what I'm saying. One should just see what it is that they need to be about. Now that's a wisdom. And if we do it in this way, we can find the nuggets of Dharma that relieve our suffering and take us into a mental happy land. We will find great delight in the Dharma. And because of our delight, we'll find great clarity, and our own lives will be peaceful. But if we are disruptive to the aspirations of others, then our own life will be disrupted. Now I'd like to go over, you notice one thing that wasn't on here, and that was, we talk about the 5 precepts, that was close to the 5 precepts. There was nothing about drinking, right? And, doing things that lead to heedlessness. But they were specific in what they asked for. They said, we like this, 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 and this. So we want a Dharma that's suitable for us to live, something that we feel we can live and walk out, that will allow us to enjoy our money, our families, house full of children, fame, wishes, desires, and hopes connected to this worldly life. And he said, okay, listen to me, I will teach you a Dharma for that. But now there are others who are seeking something else. Listen to what he said to the group of 5, the ascetics that had set out with him, ultimately abandoning him because they thought that he had given up the search when he decided to stop starving himself. And after he awakened, he went back to them, and they just turned away when he came. Like they didn't want to have anything to do with him. And he started talking, and then he stopped. He said, "When have you ever heard me talk like this?" And they had to admit, we never have. Now, that's not usually our inclination, is when we're all doing something together, we're all striving, we're all working, then somebody comes along. And this is, guys, you all missed it. I got the answer. What's the first thing we do? But he's teaching us something. From the art, from the ascetic, all the way down to the lay who wanted to indulge in the pleasures and accommodations of a sensual world. He showed us the example of being open and being willing to listen, to not denigrating people and the things that we don't yet know. How to not cut ourselves off from something. And I'm gonna read that, so I won't say what that something is at the moment. But how to not cut ourselves off from something that is germane. It is absolutely the central avenue by which we advance. So he's talking to the group of five thus, because these two extremes should not be followed by one who has gone forth into homelessness. What two? The pursuit of sensual happiness and sensual pleasures, which is low, vulgar, the way of worldlings, ignoble, unbeneficial, and the pursuit of self-mortification, which is painful, ignoble, unbeneficial. Without veering towards either of these two extremes, the Tathagata has awakened to the middle way, which gives rise to vision, which gives rise to knowledge, which leads to peace, to direct knowledge, to enlightenment, to Nibbana. Now, who was he talking to? Everybody remember? These two extremes should not be followed by one who has gone into homelessness. What two? He not only talked about the pursuit of sexual satisfaction, but he talked about sensual happiness and sensual pleasures, the delightful things that we like to see and taste and touch and smell and think. Right? Was that for the householders? That was for who? Yeah, okay. Okay. Without veering towards either of these two extremes, the Tathagata has awakened to the middle way. What is the middle way? What is the middle way awakened by the Tathagata, which gives rise to vision, which gives rise to knowledge, which leads to peace, to direct knowledge, to enlightenment, to Nibbana? It is the Noble Eightfold Path. Right view, right intention, right speech, right action, right livelihood, right effort, right mindfulness, right concentration. All the things that we start with, right? As lay people. And the reason that we can't penetrate, we don't have the key to unlock them, is because we're starting with something that ends up being just empty theories, because we have not arisen in our three ways, our thinking, our speech, and our conduct, to be able to enter into them. So we go around all the time talking about the eightfold path, and the right this and the right that and the right the other, but just talk, not really realizing it, not having vision, knowledge that leads to peace, and direct knowledge that leads to enlightenment, to Nibbana. And yet we think we're doing so good, we're so advanced. And we go around in circles, not only for years, but for decades. Talking about how we abide in right speech, right thought, right action, right livelihood, right. Especially we start at the end. We're almost like going backwards, like right mindfulness, right concentration. It's at the end of that path even. But we start with these things. And because we start with them, without the purification that's required to penetrate them, we do not come to what he calls having given rise to knowledge, that knowledge, the rise to vision, that knowledge which leads to peace, and that direct knowledge that leads to enlightenment. We cannot penetrate. We cannot understand. And because we have such a conceit eye, so caught up in our self and our selfing, and yet thinking we understand, we know, we close off absolutely the possibility of knowing. That's a sad state to be in. You know, of course, like they say, ignorance is bliss. But ignorance is not bliss. Ignorance is just ignorance. And doing all these things that we think we know how to do, and even thinking that we have attained, and have completely missed it, just simply because we skipped a few grades. I remember I skipped a grade in school, and it really had a devastating effect on my capacity to socialize. That 1 year that I was with upperclassmen, you know, and I missed something in how to socialize on an elementary level, because I was thrust into another group. And I may have been okay, ready academically, intellectually, but socially I was not. Emotionally, I was not. So when you get out of school, you're out of school. That doesn't help you. You need to have other skills, like social skills. And it was difficult for me because I missed some vital lessons that I needed to learn along the way, so that when I got to the top end, I'd be fully mature, lacking in nothing. He said, now, bhikkhus, is the noble truth of the origin of suffering. Now, this is the noble truth of the origin of suffering. It is this craving which leads to renewed existence, accompanied by delight and lust, seeking delight here and there. That is, craving for sensual pleasures, craving for existence, craving for extermination. Like some just didn't want to exist. Craving for existence and for extermination. Now, this, bhikkhus, is the noble truth of the cessation of suffering. It is the remainderless fading away and cessation of that craving. That craving, not that self, is that craving, the giving up and relinquishing of it, freedom from it, non-reliance. I like that word, non-reliance. That's one I can accommodate. I can like sit right beside. I can like ease right into it. Non-reliance. That I don't have to rely upon needing anything or anybody in this world. I've been called upon to do something. And I found myself feeling disjointed, even a little bit confused, so busy trying to rack my brain how to do it right, how to get it right, how, so much so that I begin to lose my peace. And then it came to me in preparing this, that how we should examine ourselves. Everything should be about ourselves. If something's going wrong in your world, fix yourself, and then your world becomes a Buddha land. Fix no matter what might be going on externally. And I'm like, that this I know, this I have penetrated. So it's rare that I come up in a long time since I've come up against a situation where I feel unsettled in my mind, torn, like how to do, how to accomplish, how to make everybody comfortable with it, how, just all of these questions. And then the answer came to me as I was studying the sutta. He said, whatever it is that one is intent upon, that's what you could call craving, intent upon. Approach it with a sense of non-reliance upon it. And it was like just pulling a stop out and all of the energy draining. Yes, there is something to be done. Yes, there is something that I have a part in doing, but I don't have to be all wrapped up in it. I'm not responsible for its success or its failure. I just do what I can do. And not needing its success to be happy. Not needing its success to be somebody. Not needing it to be successful at all. Just giving all, withholding none. That's my job. To give all that I have, all that I can, what I can do, withholding nothing. That's sum total love it. And all of the ease, return, and clarity is there. He said, now, this is the noble truth of suffering. Thus, bhikkhus, in regard to things unheard before, there arose in me, vision, knowledge, wisdom, true knowledge, and light. Said, noble truth of suffering is to be fully understood. This noble truth of suffering has been fully understood. This is the noble truth of the origin of suffering. Thus, bhikkhus, in regards to things unheard before, there arose in me vision, knowledge, wisdom, pure knowledge, and light. This noble truth of the origin of suffering is to be abandoned. This noble truth of the origin of suffering has been abandoned. So he said, there is the truth of suffering. It is to be fully understood. and you keep working with it until it has been fully understood. That this origin of suffering is to be abandoned. And you keep working with it in you until it has been abandoned. So there is the truth of suffering. It is to be understood. It is to be fully understood. And it is to be abandoned, and it has been abandoned. So he speaks of 3 phases and 4 aspects of these 3 phases. It comes 12 steps in the process of unpackaging the 4 noble truths. And who did he give those to? Those who had gone forth into homelessness. And this is what he said. He said that when he worked with that thought about this is suffering, what this is suffering, what is it that I am clinging to and craving for that gives me a sense of a self that has to be satisfied, that has, when there is nothing, there is no self, because there is no clinging to anything that produces a self to cling to something. So while we're trying to get rid of the self, while we're still clinging to things, it's impossible. It's impossible. So we should take the right medicines for the right illness. He talks about the noble truth of the origin of suffering has been abandoned. So we have to go to recognizing the truth of suffering, and it's due to craving. And the minute I grasp around something, I create an I identity. But when I'm not grasping on to anything, there is no thought of an I. But when there is something that one sees or desires, I arises. And he said that has to be seen, how that arising of the I is dependent upon a sense gate, and including the mind as one of the gates. So I and mind gate here in the mind gate. So the consciousness is wrapped up in that, latching hold to something, and that produces the I. It said, so that has to be seen, it has to be fully understood, it has to be abandoned. And then it goes on to the truth of the cessation of suffering. I have to be in regard to things unheard before, so that vision, knowledge, wisdom, true knowledge, and light can arise in me. And then this noble truth of the cessation of suffering can be realized. I need to know when it has been realized. When I realize, it doesn't mean realized meaning actualized, but it means I realize that this action is necessary for there to be progress. It's not like you just really realize, I get it now. I really get it. I realize. And the way leading to its actualization, the way leading to that has to be developed. So we can't like just mentally assent. We have to bring our three karmas in line with it for it to be the truth, for it to be ennobling. So there's a development process that has to take place. We don't get it all at once. No, it's not sudden. He said it is gradual. And we could be, each one of us, on some different stage of that developmental path. Right? And so he says, the way leading is to be to the cessation is to be developed. We have to know when the way leading to the cessation of suffering has been developed. And then he says, so long as my knowledge and vision of these Four Noble Truths as they really are, in their 3 phases and 12 aspects, was not thoroughly purified in this way, I did not claim to have awakened to the unsurpassed perfect enlightenment in this world, with its devas, its Maras, and Brahma, in this generation with its ascetics and Brahmins, its devas and its humans. But when my knowledge and vision of these 4 truths as they really are in their 3 phases and their 12 aspects was thoroughly purified in this way, then I claim to have awakened to the unsurpassed perfect enlightenment in this world with its devas and Mara and Brahma in this generation with its ascetics and Brahmins, its devas and its humans. So he talks about different classes of being, and he also talks about the current generation and time that he's living in. Listen to me, because if we don't, we will miss our opportunity for awakening by grasping so tightly to written words in historical books and not live the life that's required, that takes us to the true realization, that takes us, he said, there arose in me. So it rises up in us from the seed of the Buddha nature, the intrinsic nature in us. Vision, knowledge, wisdom, true knowledge, and delight in regard to things unheard before. And he said, now, this is what the Blessed One said. And everybody was elated and they were all delighted. But while this discourse was being spoken, there arose in one of them, Venerable Kandana, the dust-free, stainless vision of the Dharma. Whatever is subject to origination is all subject to cessation. He said, and when the wheel of the Dharma had been set in motion by the Blessed One, the earth-dwelling devas raised a cry in the deer park at Isipatana. Having heard the cry of the earth-dwelling devas, the devas of the realm of the 4 great kings raised a cry. Having heard the cry of the devas of the realm of the 4 great kings, the Tavatimsa devas gave a great cry. The Yama devas gave a cry. The devas in Tushita heaven gave a great cry. The Nimana Radi Brahma's company raised a great cry. And at that moment, at that instant, at that second, The cry spread as far as the Brahma world, and this 10,000-fold world system shook, quaked, and trembled, and an immeasurable glorious radiance appeared in the world, surpassing the divine majesty of all the deities. And then the Blessed One, under this inspired utterance. You think that was for the Buddha? Is that what you thought? You think all of that happened, all these ripples throughout this 10,000 worlds was because of the Buddha's utterance? No, you missed what it said in here. It wasn't the Buddha's utterance. It was Kanda's utterance when he said, now I understand. It said, then the Blessed One uttered this inspired utterance. Kandana has indeed understood. He has indeed understood. And so he was given that name, Aya Kandana, Kandana who has understood. So I say that to inspire you that being where you are is the only place you can be. And that doesn't get evaluated or denigrated by anyone else. But first you have to be honest with yourself about what it is that you're seeking. We have to allow people to choose their seat and sit down. That we have to be more open to what we don't know rather than criticizing and denigrating people and things that we have no clue about. We should not steal from people their joy in their acceleration of progress on the path, nor should we denigrate those who we consider being left behind. This has nothing to do with anybody else. It has only to do with oneself. I've said it for a long time, and now I'm more convinced than ever. I thought I would see the other side of it, and I'm through. I've said it for a long time. We got a little backwards in the West. We come together to all sit and meditate together. But he brought his disciples together to instruct them in Dharma. And then he told them, now you all go back. No, any two go in the same direction. One sit under the root of a tree and one in a hut. And there we had to reflect. We had to contemplate until we really came to see things as they truly are. If you want to grow, if you want to develop, keep these things in mind. So this has been a difficult talk in a sense, because not through any fault of our own, we've been given teachings that are full of holes. But now we have to go and plug those holes if we want our boat to stop leaking. Yeah. And we can't just roll around in kindergarten class forever. But there are some who have little dust in there. And it is a job of a teacher. It's just like a parent. You can have 3 children. One is 4, and one is 7, and one is 11. And you have to speak to each one of them in a way that they can hear. Sometimes when you're busy and have something to do, you take the 11-year-old and say, Johnny, now you watch your brother and your sister. He's like, oh no, I don't want them to hang around me. You know how it was if you were the young one and your older sister or something was responsible for watching. They like hated you because they didn't want you to hang out with them. But we have to not be like that. We have to look on the one with the lesser understanding, with grace and compassion and patience. And we have to look upon the one with greater understanding, with respect, and the indulgence that allows them to also be fed. And in this way, the Sangha will grow up together as a strong unit. But it all depends on what each one does personally with ourselves to cure our own hotness.